11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think Duran won it.
Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
Using the ropes. This guy gets a smile from Manny Pacquiao. Oh, counter assertive.
What's going on, everybody? D-Style here. Let's get this one started, man. D-Style Boxing Live, being joined by the one and the only Carcino.
Hold on. That's on me.
What's up? What's up?
No, that was on me. I had your audio going on the other.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. But look, man, first of all, thanks for coming on. Thank you for giving us your time. This should be a very interesting discussion. And it's pertaining to Terrance Crawford. As you know, before we proceed, Crawford, Spence, I know you were rolling with Crawford. Were you surprised with how dominating the performance was over Spence?
Absolutely not.
No?
This is 100% my breakdown. And everything that happened in the breakdown, I had the fight ended in round 8.
Man.
But it was a one-sided beatdown like I predicted, exactly how I predicted, because I knew stylistically Errol Spence was food for Terrance Crawford.
Food.
There's nothing he could do. His style is he can only go forward. He can only do one thing. He can't. Terrance Crawford has A, B, C, and D he could use. He didn't even have to use C and D. A and B worked completely. So he didn't even have to use C and D. But Errol was just so easy to figure out. All he was going to do was come straight ahead and try to force the action. They had no game plan except for activity, break them down, and be physical. You can do that with certain fighters. That's why they've been avoiding this man for 5 years. BBC knew what they were doing. They knew Terrance Crawford is going to destroy Errol Spence if they put him in the ring. So they have to keep Errol winning by putting him in winnable fights. And those were even knockout dragouts. I found out about Errol Spence during Mikey Garcia's fight when he looked so dominant on Mikey because of the size difference. But I noticed he could not finish Mikey Garcia. When Mikey was hurt, he didn't know how. I saw that. He couldn't even cut the ring off on Mikey. Mikey was just using simple boxing and getting by and making it to the card. He made it to the cards because this guy didn't know what he was doing. I'm like, wow, he doesn't really know how to finish people. All he knows how to do is just uses attrition and just keeps working and working and working, and hopefully you go down. So I was like, oh, he doesn't even know how to set this up. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really doesn't know what he's doing.
So let's do this before we get to Crawford. Spence, to my right over here, right to the left of the screen for the audience. Does Spence beat any of those guys at 147? Any of them?
At 147, it's hard to gauge because a lot of those guys are big 147s.
So Spence,
I
right?
think he'll beat Duran.
Okay.
I think he beats Duran at 47.
Is that one a maybe or a for sure?
I think for sure at 47 he beats Duran. So at 47 he beats Roberto Duran. Thomas Hearns will be. I think he might beat Thomas Hearns. Might. Tommy knew how to use his height. He didn't give up his height a lot when he fought. So that would be a tough one for him. And Hearns is my favorite fighter of all times. But I think that one he would have a better shot there. Ray, I don't think he beats Ray.
You're talking about Spence, right?
Oh, you talking about Spence? I thought you talking about Crawford.
I want to do Spence first really quick.
Oh, okay. Spence. Yeah, all these guys beat Spence.
Okay, that's why I was like, he beats Duran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you now. Once you started talking about Hearn, I think he's talking about Crawford at this point.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Crawford.
So Spence isn't beat. Let me name you someone that are not here. Does Spence beat Vernon Forrest?
No, he don't beat Vernon Forrest.
What about Shane Mosley?
He might beat Shane. He might beat Shane. I would give him the advantage over Shane.
Okay, all right. I Corte.
At 147, yeah, he'll beat I Corte.
I Corte, okay. I think we have a good gauge there, right? So we can. That's good. How does one more about Spence? How does Trinidad Spence play out?
Oh, Trinidad he would beat Spence easy. Knockout probably in round 10. He would knock him out with a left hook.
Does Spence get a knockdown?
No. Spence wouldn't get a knockdown.
Well, your boy got knocked down all the time.
Yeah, Trinidad got knocked down early a lot, but no. That would have been too easy because he would have seen everything Spence is throwing.
Okay.
There's no surprise from Spence. So maybe it could have been a flash down, maybe, but he would get walked down. That jab by Trinidad, that left jab will break him down. The straight right hands and then the left hook.
The hook, yeah.
So yeah, he'd have been done.
Okay.
About 10.
All right. Well, there you go. Let's get to Crawford. Now, granted, I think after this performance, I had Crawford winning by late round stoppage. I thought Spence would give him a little more resistance. Didn't happen. Do you think the fight's any different at 154 with Spence at all? Like, is he healthier? Because that's the argument. He was weight drained. He wasn't 100%.
Nah, you can't be weight drained if that's the weight you fight at.
No,
you're the welterweight champion, so that you got 3 of the belts there. So you can't be weight drained if you.
Well, that's not necessarily true, right? I mean, you could outgrow a division.
You can outgrow a division, but you have 15 months to get in shape for one fight. That's on you if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, but you haven't fought in 15 months. So
to your point, all this was on Spence's schedule, right?
Yeah, it's all on Spence's time. Spence was all setting this all up. So he agreed to all this because this was what his plan was. The fight was supposed to happen in December of last year. But Spence was fat and out of shape. So,
does he do a little better 154?
No. I mean, he's going to do better because he's going to fight different. The results are going to be another loss for him. He's not going to come in as much. He's going to try to stay on the outside and box. In his mind, he's already lost the rematch. He's already just said, I just know the fight going to be a lot closer. His thing of victory with him is making it to the cards. So his thing is he'll just make it a boring jab fest, stay on the outside, and try to keep out there and box with Terrance, which is terrible for him because that's not what he does. He's not a fighter that uses his legs. He's flat-footed, and he's not a guy that can bounce and move on his toes and hit angles. That's what Terrance does. That's not what Errol do.
One more question about Spence, or just one more. Do you put any stock on, is Spence a different fighter after the car crash than before the car crash?
No.
Is his cognitive ability slow? I don't know if you heard that interview from that doctor that said his reaction time slow.
Trying to get famous. I mean, anybody who's a neurologist trying to make an observation just off a fight, and he's never reviewed the person or never seen a scan or anything, he's just trying to get fame, and that's what he did. If there's neurological damage, he wouldn't even been allowed to fight. They wouldn't put him in the ring. Nobody said anything about any accident, and he had 2 previous fights. Nobody said nothing about an accident. As soon as he get his ass whooped, here come the accident. And I knew it. I said, this is what's going to happen. I was like, Terrance Crawford's going to kick his ass, and then y'all going to start talking
They canceled the Pacquiao fight because of the eye, right? Maybe that could have been because of the damage from the car accident, right?
Well, he had a detached retina, so that could have been from that. But he got in after he did that. He fought Ugas.
He
He
did.
fought Ugas after that because Ugas ended up fighting Manny Pacquiao and took his place. Then he fought Ugas after that. So he already had a fight with his eye, and his eye was perfectly fine. So it's only when they get his ass whooped. Now it's a problem with his eye.
Crawford was southpaw, right? Like,
right. He fought Sean Porter same way.
yeah.
But
So Crawford is a southpaw. Manny Pacquiao was southpaw.
No, he's not a southpaw. He's a conventional.
Well, he fought southpaw. He fought
southpaw.
Manny Pacquiao was a southpaw.
Mm-hmm.
Did Manny Pacquiao have a shot against Spence more than people think?
Yeah, he did.
All
because Errol is never. But the thing is about Manny's speed would have gotten to him early. So the first 5-6 rounds would have been telling. But after that, Manny's legs are gone. There's no more of that bounce anymore. So he's more flat-footed now. So it'd have been more of a, can Errol still take those shots and keep coming forward? Now, early on, he would have got buzzed, and Manny would have painted him and hit him at angles. It would have been a lot closer than what people thought early on because Errol does not know how to have an easy night. See, this is why they fed him a steady diet of small welterweights: Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, Chris Algieri. These are 140, 135 fighters. Errol is a 154 guy. He started his career off with Top Rank. He was at 154. Yeah. And they kept him there, and they moved him because guys at 154 were too big, and they were rocking him. So they wanted to move him down to 47. They figured, okay, you'll be big at 47, but you got to make 47. So that was the sacrifice early on because he was a 54 fighter. So he started his career there. And when those guys was rocking his belt, they said, okay, well, we're going to have to move this guy down to 47. So now he's going to go back to 54 at the end of the career.
I've been on YouTube a while.
Yeah.
Right? And we just mentioned Manny Pacquiao. So, I mean, there was a time where there was a rivalry. Pacquiao fans, Mayweather fans, all that good stuff. You used to, and I need to know, like, I don't know if you were trolling, if you were serious, you were just fucking with the Pacquiao fans. You made a video once saying that Pacquiao is no different than Arturo Gatti. Is that, do you still stand by that?
No,
he does.
Versus against Floyd, I mean, the thing is he's got a stronger chin than Arturo Gatti. I'll give you that because Gotti will get knocked down and keep getting up and get knocked down and keep getting up and taking body shot. So, but other than that, it's like Manny is good in his element, but if you take his element away, he's like Arturo Gatti. You could matador and change it. Like if he fought Marquez showed you like the skill set. Manny has speed and he can get to those angles, but he's not on the level of Marquez as a boxer and as a fighter. He can't really set those type of traps. Manny just knows how to exploit and uses his advantage and get you on the back of your heels by using his speed. And it's kind of like Inoue. Inoue doesn't throw that many combinations. He basically throws the same 2-punch combination, one to the body, one to the head. But he does it and it's the timing with the speed. He waits for a certain pocket.
But Garcia, like Pacquiao's also faster than Gatti, right? He's more athletic than Gatti.
Yeah, he's faster than Gatti. That's what I'm saying. He uses his advantage, but when you take that away from him, then he's done.
Yeah, I got to give it to you. You stand your square. I'll say that. How's it going, Blood?
Oh, Blood's in here.
What's up?
Blood? What's going on?
What's up?
What up?
Raise the roof, baby.
That's right. Throwback Thursday's back on a Tuesday.
Throwback Thursday in the building.
Yeah, that's right.
Man, you don't drug this old ass nigga out here?
Yeah.
Carcino? Oh my God.
Hey, Carcino's still around. It just finally started talking boxing again.
When I have a perfect, accurate prediction as that Crawford fight down to the letter, man, they was like, man.
Hey, Blood.
Everybody thought it was 50-50. I said, this is 100-0.
You called the 9th round, Carcino?
I had the 8th,
Okay.
they called it, and then it went, it went to the 9th.
Close.
I had the 8th, but
I think I said the 10th. But either way, I mean, Blood. Before we get to Bud Crawford, Blood, I want to ask you of all these guys, and I'll put the screen up. Who do you think Spence would beat, and who do you think, if any, of all these guys right here?
Spence or Crawford?
Spence.
Well, we know he can't beat Crawford. I don't think he could beat Trinidad. Won't beat Sugar Ray Leonard. Won't beat Floyd Mayweather. Won't beat Thomas Hearns. Won't beat Oscar De La Hoya. Won't beat Roberto Duran. Won't beat Marlon Starlin. I'll add a few. Won't beat Simon Brown. There's quite a few. Won't beat Mark Greenland.
Well, let me lower the tier a little bit. Does he beat Icorte?
Maybe Icorte, maybe. It's a close one to call, though.
Okay.
You know what? I think the Spence of 2018 would have did better against a lot of these guys, or 2019. 2018, 2019 version of Errol Spence. I think he might have been a little bit more problems for these guys.
Man.
He brought the heat a lot more back then, man. Punch resistance was better. He was throwing them punches, them combination punches, going to the body, banging hard. I think the Spence from 2019 or back would provide a better matchup for some of those guys. But Corte, yeah, I'd give him one on Corte. It's
Over
hard,
Corte.
though. It's a hard one, but.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. So there's a disagreement. I know Carcino feels he's the same fighder. Carcino
feels he's the same fighter as with 2019? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't see nothing really different with Errol. I don't really see nothing really.
Carcino's going to stand that square. He ain't going to move.
No, I'm just saying, I don't really think. I mean, you're going to have your bell run. You're not going to be 100%. I think it's more confidence with him. Once he getting hit and he get buzzed now, he started to really think, like I'm going to be in trouble. He kind of panics, like when Ugas was getting off on him.
Hey, but Carcino, you're a big Kell Brook guy. I mean, were you kind of surprised he beat Kell Brook?
No. Kell at this point? No. I wasn't surprised that Terrance Crawford beat him. You talking about when Errol beat him?
Errol, yeah, Errol.
Oh, well, Errol won? No, because it was set up for Errol. I mean, Kell wasn't supposed to take that fight at all. He just went to 160 and got his eye socket broken by Triple G. And he was supposed to go fight at 54, and Al Heyman came with a big bag of money and said, no, we don't want to win a vacant title. We want to fight you for the title. We'll let you fight in your hometown, and we'll make we're going to pay for everything. So he was like, man, they're going to give me this kind of money. I'm going to have to take it.
Okay.
So, but Eddie Hearns suggested he vacate the title and go to 54. He went against Eddie Hearns' wishes, went for the bag, and he did good. Enough. Even though he killed himself to make 147, he did it and defended his title, and he lost, but he still rocked Errol in that fight. When Errol tried to finish him, he'd rock him, but yeah, he broke the other side of the orbital bone because it wasn't all the way healed.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get to Crawford here because there's a lot of welterweights to compare with them. I think at this point, it's clear he's the best welterweight in the world. He proved it, right? Shout out to Leonard Allerby. He tweeted out that people need to stop comparing Crawford to Floyd because just let Crawford enjoy his win.
Yeah, but that's going to happen. It's boxing.
Yeah, of course. Like, you know what I mean? But shout out to Leonard Allerby either way. But let's compare. I'm going to leave Floyd till later. But so Terrance Crawford against circa Manny Pacquiao, like 2012 to 2011, when Manny was on fire and he was getting accused of PEDs and all that. Mm-hmm. We'll start with that Manny Pacquiao. Blood, who wins that fight, Crawford or Manny?
Is there going to be Yasada or Vada? No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever you want it to be.
I'm just kidding about that. The Manny Pacquiao from 2012, 2011, the one who fought Miguel Cotto and guys like
Cotto,
Vernon.
Margarito, all that, yeah. Cloudy.
Oh, man. That Manny Pacquiao there must have been, around 30 years old, 31? around that time.
Something
I would
like that.
say it would be a really tough fight. But after looking at that Joshua Clottey fight that he had when he was in his prime, I would prefer Crawford in the fight. I think that Crawford has the skill set to give him some problems, man. But Manny Pacquiao, I mean, he was very awkward, threw a whole bunch of punches back in them days, man. Combination punches, man. He could fight mid to long range. I think it would be a hard win for Crawford, but I would favor Crawford to win the fight, man. I'd give Crawford a decision in that fight over Manny Pacquiao.
Same here.
Oh,
I got Crawford winning by decision.
Decision, but do you think it's close, Card? Like 8-4, 9-3, 10-2?
I say about 8-4 because I'll give Manny some of the early rounds, but once Crawford gauge his speed and able to time his speed, it's over.
Right. You know what? Now that Blood reminded me of the Clottey fight. Clottey was landing some good uppercuts on Manny on that fight. And they were really pointed out by I think he landed like a 3-punch combination, like a 3 straight uppercuts on Manny. And Crawford had some vicious uppercuts. Like he might land those on Manny for sure. I would favor Crawford by decision as well. Pretty wide though, like 9-3 or something like that. But Manny was a buzzsaw back then, so it's tough to say. But
yeah, but his defense wasn't great. You could hit Manny. That was the thing. You could hit him.
Well,
Crawford starts slow, but I believe I agree with Carcino. I think that Pacquiao will win some of the early rounds, but once Crawford gets the timing down and everything like that, then that's where Crawford starts to pick up the points and starts to win the rounds, man.
Reese Mack points out Bo would have had a 7-inch reach advantage over Manny Pacquiao. Man, Jesus Christ! Right. Let's go with some of the welterweights from that era. Miguel Cotto, before the Miguel Cotto before the Margarito beatdown, like that Miguel Cotto. Carcino versus Crawford.
Versus Crawford, I got Bud over Miguel Cotto at 47.
Okay. Blood.
Well, you have to think too. Miguel Cotto was just moving into the welterweight division at that time. Mm-hmm. Around the time he fought Margarito, he was moving up from 140 at that time. So I would favor Bud. He's been there a little bit longer. The thing about Cotto is his time at welterweight was kind of short-lived, really, for the most part. I mean, he took the beat down from Margarito. He recovered from the injuries from the Margarito fight. He was able to come back just in time to take another beat down by Manny Pacquiao. He had the win over Zab Judah, Sugar Shane Mosley. That's him at his best when it comes to welterweight. The Zab Judah and the Sugar Shane Mosley victories. But it's just not enough to beat a fighter like Bud, man.
Not enough, yeah. And I agree. I think Cotto, even at 140 against Torres, Zab hurt him pretty good. He had to low blow Zab. People forget about that. He hit him in the nutsack to stay alive in that fight. But I think Crawford would hurt him early. I think Crawford knocks him out early, 4th round. I don't think it goes that long.
Nah, I think it would go long.
So you think he'll stop? You guys think he'll stop Cotto?
No, I don't. I think he'll win by decision on Cotto.
I don't think Cotto goes the distance. I just don't. Wow. He had trouble with Zab and he had trouble with Manny's speed as well. But obviously, I know Cotto could always get on his bicycle and try to survive, but I just think Bud would just stalk him and take him out.
Yeah, the weight killed Cotto. Cotto had to come down to 145 to fight.
What about the Zab fight where he was hurt?
The Zab fight, he got rocked. And, Zab got his attention because he got a cut in his mouth. His mouthpiece cut his mouth off that shot. So Zab made him cut himself, so he was bleeding inside his mouth.
Let me put it this way, Carcino. If Crawford hurt Cotto and then Cotto low blowed him, like that, he's going to take him out. If he does that to Crawford.
Well, I mean, Bud is really good at setting up the knockout. That's the thing about him that's really good. That's why people don't understand how good he is in stopping people. He actually knows how to set it up to get you out of there. because he sets the traps and hits you with punches you don't see coming. He wait for a spot. So that's how he knows how to finish. And this is something Earl never learned. And he just an attrition fighter. He just gonna grind you down until you just fall. But he don't know how to set traps and get you out of there. And that's why I always said he had the wrong type of trainer anyway. And Cotto, he's just durable enough to know how to survive. So that's what I'm saying. That's how I'm saying Terrance Crawford knows how to get him out of there. But you deal with someone like Cotto who been buzzed, who been hurt, he know how to survive. Those guys in the older days, they know how to, like, okay, I'm buzzed. I ain't finna get, like most of these fighters and try to I'm gonna just swing because I'm hurt. Just to let them so I can make them, think I'm not hurt. I'm just gonna start swinging. That just leave you open.
So let's go with this. There was some welterweights around like from 2007 to like 2010ish, the 2011ish. So there was a couple. So Margarito, how does Margarito do against Crawford? Blood. How do you think that fight goes?
I would favor Crawford to beat Margarito, man. I would favor Errol Spence to beat Margarito, too.
Okay.
Margarito had his little reign. Margarito's reign is not 2010. It's when he had the WBO title.
Yeah.
He went on a long reign with the WBO title. I'm sure you remember that. And it was, I think he might have had over 10 defenses or something like that. And it was around that time where he was going and he was tearing people's ear off and beating up on guys like Kermit Cintron and guys like that. He also beat Sergio Martinez during that stretch too. So that's Margarito around at his best, but still not good enough for Bud Crawford. And I don't even think he
does Crawford stop him?
Yes. Okay. Sugar Shane Mosley was able to stop him using wide punches. And Margarito was just there to be hit. Margarito had a really good chin. But if you got knockout power, you get Margarito out of there.
Okay.
Yep.
Margarito, does he stop him? Decision?
I think he stops him. I mean, the ref would probably had to get in there because his eye is going to be closed. Of course, we talking about Margarito without the plaster, so because that's what I'm saying. We don't know how long he's been using it. I know he had it against Paul Williams. So
I think he did have it against Paul Williams.
Yeah, he did.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm not even going to start that conversation, but I hear you guys.
Yeah.
Well, because D-Style's one of the guys who doesn't believe that he cheated, right?
No, he did cheat, but it wasn't plaster Paris.
It was plaster. What would you think it was?
It was illegal pads, like old padding.
No. That was
or inserts. It was old inserts.
No, that's plaster. You see Cotto's face? Cotto's face ain't. That's plaster.
It wasn't plaster, brother. But either way.
Anyway, you go watch the Paul Williams fight. Paul Williams blanked
we're not gonna go. I'm not gonna go there right now.
Blanked him for the first 6 rounds. Blanked that man out, and once that thing hardened, by 6 rounds, when he started hitting,
look at Spence's face. Was that plaster?
Look at whose face?
You can't just say look at his face. Look at Spence's face.
Spence's face ain't look like Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto would bleed from internally. He was. You can see the way a fighter reacts. That tells you something is off.
Man, ain't nobody after that fight say, "Oh, he's got plaster." No, nobody said that.
If you'd have listen, go back and watch the Paul Williams fight.
If there's a way people react to plaster, we would have all noticed it if there was a way.
All you gotta do is go back and watch it. You can see the reaction from a fighter when
I just said I'm not gonna get into it. Now I'm getting into it, but
yeah.
But anyway, I still agree. Even if he did have plaster, I still think
dirty as hell.
He was dirty.
His whole career to me is fraudulent.
I know what D-Style is thinking though, and I know where it's coming from, but it's all
but either way, I'm in agreement that Crawford beats him, even if he had plaster. Like if he had an egg weight, like I still think he beats. Okay, but so now look, Paul Williams.
Yep.
Long, lengthy, at welterweight. Interesting fight. Carcino, how do you see that fight?
Paul Williams and who? Crawford?
Yeah, they're all for Crawford now, yes.
Okay, Crawford beats him easy by knockout in like the 3rd or 4th round.
Damn.
Third and fourth.
Cotto was a distance, but Williams gets knocked out in the third.
He gets knocked out in the third or fourth.
Well,
He's
all
gonna
right.
He's gonna get caught with a hook, inside hook. Paul Williams' chin was always in the air. He had terrible defense. He lost to Carlos Quintana.
Yeah.
Quintana just.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
And just kept hitting him with the same left hook all night long. Dude, whole side of his face was like that. He ain't blocked not one of them. He said
He came back good against Quintana now.
Yeah, because he should have won the first time. They told, Quintana only had one move, and this the duck hook. What? I'm like, how are you getting hit with this punch?
And that was working on Williams though, like all night. It was crazy.
Williams used to give away his height. He used to give away his height in the fights, and he would get hit with too many punches. His head movement wasn't the best. You know what really helped Williams out a lot was his volume punching.
Yeah.
He punched with a lot. He punched with high volume. But if you get in there against a good boxer, he'll run into their punches and all kinds of stuff.
And
give away his height.
And I told him
a slick fighter like Crawford, no way.
And they was like, he gonna beat Floyd. Floyd's scared of Paul. I'm like, Floyd will win this fight easy. He'll blank him. He'll miss all that and get hit, countered. It's just gonna be a boring fight if Floyd turning him. Bip, turn him. I'm like, we just saw Quintana do it. You think Floyd Mayweather can't do what Quintana just did?
All right, so let's Blood. How do you think that fight would have played out
with Paul Williams and Crawford?
Williams and Crawford, yeah.
Because Williams gives his height away, he's already taken one thing away from himself against Crawford. Not only that, Williams gets hit with all kinds of punches. He runs into punches. I don't know what it was with that guy with the head movement. He'll get caught into in slugfest, and he never learned how to use his height and fight behind a jab. People always would compare him to Thomas Hearns, but Williams used to lead with hooks and all kinds of stuff. He didn't even fight behind a jab. He would hardly ever use that jab, and that was a big problem for Williams, man. Okay. He liked to get on the inside and bang, and he always gave away his height, man. Yeah, he's just going to be right there for Crawford to hit. Yeah, and he's not going to be utilizing no head movement. And once Crawford starts switching from orthodox to southpaw and confusing him like Martinez did, next thing you know, he runs into something terrible, and he's out cold.
Another Al Heyman project, man. Taking basketball players, turning them into boxers.
I just think there's a possibility.
He's a basketball player
because like Crawford loves to brawl, and he might lure him into a brawl, bro. Like Crawford might just start trading with them, and because he's done it with some fighters before. So I just have a feeling that will be like a brawl. I think Crawford would win.
I don't even think it would.
I don't think he knocks him out early though.
I do, because Paul ain't gonna be able to take that from Crawford. Crawford gonna put it on him, and he gonna put it to his body. So that's one thing about Bud. Bud is a great body puncher. Errol is not a body puncher. See, I try to tell people he throw body shots. There's a difference. Terrance Crawford is a body puncher. He places shots in the body.
Paul was able to take the shots against Margarito with the loaded gloves, though.
Yeah, because he kept moving. See, after the 6th round, when he got hit, that's when you could tell the punches was starting to take effect. He could feel, because that's plaster.
This is revisionist history right now.
Yeah, it plaster hardened.
Is that what happened? Like, what?
4 rounds.
The plaster was hard.
Talking about
once it hardened, that from all the sweat and everything, because it gets wet and then it gets hard. But you could tell, and you look at the 5th and 6th round when Margarito would just touch him slightly. Paul Williams jumped.
No, he didn't. What are you talking? I don't remember jumping.
Was coming forward after the 6th round.
You're making stuff up, bro. All right.
He ran out of gas. It came down to the 12th round, and Paul Williams just boxed and stayed away. And he was like, I really did feel his power, like later on in the fight.
So he knew there was plaster in the gloves?
Oh, yeah. It was plaster. Why
do I feel like I'm in a time machine from 15 years ago?
Yeah.
But let's
came out, you knew. I was like, oh, yeah, he damn sure used it for Paul Williams.
So you believe he fought against a dude with plaster, but he's going to get knocked out in the 3rd round?
Yes.
All right. I mean, shit.
He going to get knocked the hell out. Margarito couldn't hit him if he's turning him all the time. He kept grabbing him and turning this dude and boxing him. Staying on the outside for them last 6 rounds. That's what saved his life. Shoot.
So now here's 2 guys, because these guys, they weren't in the welterweight division. So Ricardo Mayorga versus Terrance Crawford. How does that fight play out, Blood?
Oh man, come on, man! You really think Ricardo Mayorga has a chance against Terrance Crawford?
No, I don't. But like, how does it end? How does it go?
In knockout, man. Ricardo Mayorga, man, he just fought off of energy, man. I mean, this guy was a dedicated fighter. He used to smoke cigarettes before he got into the ring. He'd gas out in fights and things like that. Crawford could beat him any way he wants to beat him. It'd be an easy fight for Terrance Crawford. And plus, this guy, Mayorga, used to like to give his chin up. If he does that to Crawford, his ass is, he had one good fight.
It worked against Forrest.
He had 2 good fights against Vernon Forrest. Yeah. But you do that to Crawford, that's your ass, man. Crawford could beat him out the southpaw. He could beat him out the orthodox. Damn. He could beat Mayorga any type of way he wants. And then Mayorga is going to gas out after 5 rounds anyway. So, I mean.
You agree, Carcino?
I agree. I think round 9, he would win by knockout. Because I think the body punches is going to start taking effect.
All right.
Because a lot of people.
I agree. I think Crawford beats him.
That's what really hurt Errol a lot. And a lot of people didn't see that in the fight as well. Is not just the jab that broke him down. He would always place a body shot on Errol. He would throw that left right to the body. Every time he landed a good head shot, boom, he'll place one right in his body to keep Errol from using them legs to move around and get out of there. Errol was standing right in front of him. And that's why his trainer, Derek James, losing it. Why you standing in front of him? Why you ain't? Because them body shots is holding him.
Okay.
He can't. Taking the
let's talk about the last undisputed fight at welterweight when there was 3 belts. Who has a better performance against Bud? Zab Judah or Corey Spinks, Blood? Who does better against?
That's a really hard one, man, because Zab Judah, you know what? Corey Spinks might actually be better to go to distance because he's not as aggressive as Zab Judah. Zab Judah is an extremely aggressive fighter, and Bud, he feeds off of aggression. He's one of those type of fighters who's looking for counters. Corey Spinks is not going to be too aggressive with Bud Crawford. He's going to stay in the high guard. He's going to use a lot of movement. I think that Corey Spinks could survive better than Zab Judah. And I think that it would be a survival game for both of them. And I think that Corey Spinks could survive better because he's less aggressive. And Crawford doesn't do as well against fighters who are not as aggressive.
Okay.
That is correct. And he'll be doing the Spinks jinx and all of this. But in the 11th round, he's going to get clipped. And then
I agree.
Gone. Yeah. Spinks will be gone. He going to get to 11, though. He going to make it. He going to get close. Because Corey going to take little light steps, do this little spin. Man, I was like, he going to look like old B-Hop, man. When B-Hop, man, his last fight, couple fights, man, when they was telling him, don't take big moves. Take them little light steps, and B-Hop was just taking them little bitty steps. I'm like, oh, B-Hop, man, go on and retire.
I think Crawford washes both of them, but that's why I framed it that way. But Corey will probably Corey survived 12 rounds with Jermaine Taylor for what it's worth at middleweight, so he could probably go 12.
He damn near won that fight.
He probably did. Which is crazy.
It's going to be a survival thing for him from round 1, whereas Zab Judah is going to take some chances.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the difference, and he's going to set himself. He's going to give Crawford more opportunities to counter.
Yep. So we're going to go back a couple more. It's going to get a little tougher now. The Shane Mosley that had moved up from lightweight, that Shane Mosley that beat Oscar De La Hoya that night, the first fight, that Shane Mosley against Terrance Crawford, Carcino. Who was that fight?
Terrance Crawford. Easy. That's an easy fight.
I don't know if it's easy, but how do you see it going?
Well, the thing is Terrance Crawford is going to use the jab. Shane Mosley don't jab. A lot of people don't understand that about Shane. He don't jab. He flicks. He flicked the jab and then try to boom.
Range finder, yeah.
That's
and
true.
He's a left hook guy, right hook guy. He jumps into the left hook. He chin his way up in the air. You can easily hit Shane. Shane don't jab. This is why Floyd wanted to fight him at 35. He wanted to fight him at 30. He wanted to beat Shane Mosley because he's like, oh, that guy can't beat me. Not fighting like this. This guy don't jab. He's like, I can hit him with anything. I can use any feint in the world to control him. And Oscar De La Hoya was controlling him when he jabbed. All Oscar had to do was jab. I'm like, jab every time in that first fight. When Oscar jabbed, he controlled the fight, controlled the round, easy, pop, 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 pop. And I'm like, man, he getting hit with every jab Oscar throw. Oscar just stopped jabbing and kept getting hit with this jump left hook. Bing! I'm like, how in the world are you getting hit with that?
He was just a different beast that time. He had speed, power. He was explosive.
Yeah, he was.
Good reflexes.
But I told everybody he was going to lose to Vernon Forrest, and I won everybody's money because I said Vernon Forrest is going to jab him. And that's anybody with a jab is going to beat Shane Mosley.
Hoya had a jab. He still didn't beat him.
He stopped jabbing. Vernon Forrest wasn't going to stop jabbing. That's what I'm saying. That jab was coming. I'm like, when that right hand, bit, right in the gut. He was on the ground. I said, oh, yeah, it is. Get my money ready.
Hey, Blood. So that version of Shane Mosley against Crawford, who would win?
I'm gonna have to go with Crawford, man, because I do agree with Carcino. Mosley didn't really use a jab at all, and not only that, Mosley didn't do good against fighters who had a really good jab, like Carcino said. And another thing with Mosley too that he did a lot, and he did this in that fight with Oscar De La Hoya, is he would bang to the body and leave himself open. When he would go to the body, he would just, he'd leave he'd just leave himself open to be countered all night. And for whatever reason, Oscar De La Hoya, he got caught up in going and getting into this slugfest with Sugar Shane Mosley when he should have boxed off his back foot. He should have probably tried to get a little bit more distance between him and Shane Mosley. But Shane Mosley used to like to bang to the body, and he never really utilized a whole lot of head movement when he was banging to the body. He left his head wide open. I don't think that works really good against a fighter like Crawford, man.
Right, and that's why you saw in the rematch, De La Hoya painted him with that all rematch. Bit.
I just think I can't. Like, he had a great chin, mostly.
He did.
And when Crawford clips him, I just feel he's going to hit Crawford back. And Crawford likes to slug it out when he gets hit back. Right? So it's happened many times. I think if Mean Machine was able to give him some rounds, some good work, I think that Mosley gives him some good work too, in my opinion.
I think Mosley will have a few moments in the fight. He'll have a few moments, but he just can't beat Crawford, man.
Okay.
It's too much. It's too many things that Bud could go to if something ain't worked. Like, Shane could only do and fight one way, and his athleticism was and power. That was his thing, athleticism and power. He just load up on everything big. Everything was big. And then he'll flick, then come with something big, and big right hand. It's no real setup, no traps, no fighting going backwards. So, if he goes backwards, he's just gonna stop and jump. That was his style.
So let's talk about the guy that beat Mosley at welterweight twice, which is Vernon Forrest.
Vernon Forrest, yeah.
How does Vernon Forrest do against Terrance Crawford, Carcino?
It'll be an interesting fight, but Vernon will lose.
Decision?
Vernon will lose that fight. Will it be a decision? It might be a knockout, like late if it do come. Vernon has the things where he waits a lot. He's waiting on the opening. So it'd be a chess match. Vernon had a great jab, but he left himself open. If you were aggressive, see, Terrance is more comfortable with being aggressive and pushing him back and just saying, okay, so I got to be the dog in this fight. He knows how to come in by using a double jab. See, Vernon Forrest is good at catching the jab, the first one, the second one to get in. So he would use a double jab to get in and then start banging to the body. He was a better body puncher than Vernon Forrest. Vernon Forrest had a good right hand to the body, but you can get to Vernon if you use a double jab. So if he double jab Vernon try to catch it and not be there, he'll get caught because he sits around and like waits too long to get off. And it's like, why are you looking? Fire it. So Terrance will take advantage of that. He'll see that, and he'll get close to Vernon and smother him. And that's what Margarito. What's his name? Not Margarito, but
Mayorga?
Mayorga. Yeah, Mayorga. That's what he did. He smothered him. The whole time he just mauled him. So when he did get a chance to work, the shots were there from him. Like the second fight, I felt Vernon Forrest won. Mayorga was just the it thing now. He was smoking cigarettes, great interview. He was the new Flash. So they just gave him the second victory. But the first fight, he just took from Vernon. He didn't know nothing about Mayorga.
I also think in the first fight, Mayorga threw him off and maybe intimidated him a little bit.
It just rushed. Yeah, he was like, man, then he got clipped. He was hitting. He hit Margarito Madonna. What goddamn it, Mayorga. Yeah, I'm saying everything but him. He hit Mayorga like flush with like everything in the first fight. And then Mayorga was like, man, that black guy can hit hard. But he came right back again, storming him again. He just wasn't ready to get bum rushed. That was unexpected. Then he got clipped. Bit. Like he didn't even punch him. He like hit him with this part of the glove, like knocked him off balance. Yeah, then he was ready. He was ready.
Blood, does it go distance or knockout?
Well, there's a little bit of a problem I have with this. You're placing Terrance into the 154 division for the Vernon Forrest comparison, but
yeah,
regardless, Vernon Forrest was mentally weak, man. Somebody could get in there and they could really take him out of his game plan. He was able to keep Shane Mosley at the end of his jab because Mosley doesn't have a jab in return, whereas Terrance Crawford does have that jab. Now, one thing about Vernon Forrest, he wasn't a very great infighter either, where Terrance Crawford could take him into the mid to into the booth and into mid-range, and he could dominate there. I would also question Vernon Forrest's mental, man. He just didn't seem very mentally strong in some of his fights, man. He seemed like he could fall apart. Once you took his game plan away, he seemed like he didn't really know what to do and things like that. I don't think he's mentally strong enough to beat a Terrance Crawford. Not at all. I would favor Terrance Crawford to win that.
I agree. I think Terrance Crawford wins. Let's get to the big names of the late 90s. These are the guys that had a big mega fight. Let's start with Oscar De La Hoya. Undefeated De La Hoya at, let's say 97, 99 between that versus, my answer might surprise some people, but versus Terrance Crawford. Before you guys go, I actually think Oscar De La Hoya has an excellent shot against Crawford. I really do. I think he had a monster left hook. He had an amazing jab.
Okay, I'll just wait. Before you go, you say Oscar, the one that fought like Trinidad, that Oscar or Ike Cortez?
Sure, yeah, like the welterweight, undefeated De La Hoya at welterweight.
Okay.
I don't think Crawford's ever fought anybody with a hook with power like that. I think he had a great jab. I think De La Hoya would be ahead on the scorecards after 6 rounds. I think Crawford takes over and wins a very controversial decision against Oscar De La Hoya. I think it's a tough fight. That's how I see that fight.
I see it as a probably 8 rounds to 4 or 7-5 for Terrance Crawford. I think they go to the cards though. But he's gonna take away Oscar's left hook. Oscar right hand back then was jelly. So, he's left-handed, in real life. That's why his left hook was so strong. They would have took that away. He'd have took his jab away, and he would have countered with his jab, kind of like what Ike Cortez did to Oscar De La Hoya. But Oscar De La Hoya, Terrance got better defense than Cortez. He wouldn't have been caught with that left hook that many times. If you hit Terrance with that once, you ain't going to hit it with it all night long. So that's the thing with Oscar is Oscar was good at putting leverage on the hook, but if you fought somebody who was on their toes, Ike Cortez is the type he wasn't using angles too much. He was standing in front of you, and he had a jab that he would shoot from his hip. So Oscar didn't see it coming. That's where he got the leverage on it, and it had so much power because he didn't have his hand up. He had his hands low and shoot it from the hip, and so Oscar wouldn't see it until it was popping him right in his face. And it was so strong because he didn't see it coming. And that jab was keeping him at bay. And Oscar could be hit. You know, that was the thing about Oscar. You could actually hit him with a jab. And even though Oscar had some movements and had a strong jab, Terrance could take that away because you were going to need a right hand to beat Terrance Crawford. You need two hands, and Oscar was one-handed back then. He only would throw his right to just throw a combination, but it was nothing on the right. His right was weak as a noodle. So that's why. Well, that's when he got with Mayweather Sr., that's when his right hand started to be more prevalent. Mayweather Sr. actually worked on his right hand and said, your right hand is garbage. We got to they got to respect your right hand. So he started working with his right hand. Started getting that right hand strong, giving him exercise. So then when he started putting that right hand on people, you know, it was looking a lot better when he got with Mayweather Sr. than when he was with Roberto Alcazar. Alcazar was better for him with movement and, you know, and all of that, but he couldn't, you know, he was basically dealing with what he was given. Oscar was determined to fight his style, his way. So he said, all right, well, let me just work with you with the way you like it. Rather than Mayweather Sr. wasn't finna do that. It's my way and no other way.
His right hand got better with Senior.
Yeah. He respected Senior. He wasn't even going to question it.
He was popping Vargas quite a few with that right hand, too. When they fought. Blood, what you got in that fight?
De La Hoya did very well against brawling type fighters. When fighters were durable, he had a little bit more problem with those type of fighters. In fact, Obakar, that guy from back in the day, had a few good rounds against Oscar De La Hoya, if you could remember. Not only that, some people thought that Corte won that fight. They had Corte winning. Pernell Whitaker. Some people believe that Pernell Whitaker won the fight against Oscar De La Hoya. I would favor Crawford to win the fight by a decision. De La Hoya was a very tough fighter, but he did much better against fighters who he could pull them counters against than fighters who were right in front of him. He did really well against fighters that were right in front of him, other than Shane Mosley, because Shane Mosley's hand speed gave him a lot of problems. But when it comes to timing and things like that, De La Hoya had pretty good timing. He was pretty quick, but not as quick as guys like Crawford and Mayweather and people like that. He couldn't deal with those kind of he did decent against Mayweather, but when it really came down to it, the timing and speed was just a little bit too much for him. The movement bothered him a whole lot. The fighters who were not in front of him, Pernell Whitaker gave him hell when he was in his prime. Corte, like I said, he had good rounds against Oscar De La Hoya. So did Obakar. And Obakar wasn't the best fighter out there. I think it took him 11 rounds to get Obakar, to finally get Obakar out of there. So, you know, Oscar De La Hoya, some would say he had a few gift decisions or he was given a few gifts throughout his career, especially at welterweight. I would favor Crawford to win that fight.
All right.
Yeah, and then I was one with the Corte, but I could see why Sweet Pea didn't get it because he made Oscar miss. He just really didn't make him pay enough. So I could see them giving those rounds to Oscar. I could see that's the only reason he would get the nod, because he made him miss. And I'm like, you making him miss, but you got to at least, you know, start putting something on him. You know, you making him miss and embarrassing him. You making him look like an amateur, but you got to really put something on him so the judge can really give you the round. You know, they're going to give it to Oscar, even though he missing, he throwing. So that was the only thing in that fight that would throw it. I would say I couldn't even get mad if they gave it to Oscar. I was more upset about the Ike Corte. I thought he needed to knock out Ike Corte to win that fight. I was like, there is no way he got a knockdown in the last round. I'm like, yeah, that's 10-8. So there ain't no way he won the fight.
I scored it for De La Hoya, but I hear you. It was a close fight.
Yeah, it was close, but Corte won that. I'm like, he won. De La Hoya father.
Hey, Carcino, did you bet money on Corte in that fight?
Yeah, I did.
You lost money, right? Is that what it is?
But that's beside the point. Corte won that fight.
I think we know why you were so convinced, but
even HBO had him winning when they did the Harold Letterman gave the fight to him, and I was shocked.
A lot of people gave it to Corte.
I felt the fight could have gone either way, and we know if it could go either way, the house fighter's going to win 9 out of 10 times. It is what it is, right? But Felix Trinidad, tremendous power at 147 pounds. Is that enough to make a difference? Well, I'll go to you second, Garcia. First blood, like who wins that fight?
Between Trinidad and Crawford?
Yeah.
Trinidad was a 1 to 2 dimensional type of fighter. I mean, he had a lot of power. Don't get me wrong. He fought pretty good off his jab, but he struggled badly against fighters like Bernard Hopkins. I know Bernard Hopkins is a bigger guy, though, and we're talking about Trinidad at welterweight. But Trinidad, in my opinion, he just fought off of his jab. You had to kind of be there for Trinidad to hit. Trinidad didn't fight a whole bunch of durable fighters. He fought an old-ass Pernell Whitaker, and to me, he was outboxed by Oscar De La Hoya in that fight. I mean, I know it was a close fight, but, I gave Oscar De La Hoya that fight, man. I just think he was too one-dimensional for Terrance Crawford. Terrance Crawford could do so many different things. If it's not working for him out of the orthodox, he could switch it up and go to southpaw. He probably does have the jab to match a Trinidad. I think Trinidad would give him a tough time at welterweight because he was one hell of a welterweight, and he didn't really start having problems till he moved out of the welterweight division. But how many durable welterweights did Trinidad fight, though? I mean, when you look back at Trinidad's welterweight reign, it's a bunch of flat-footed fighters, man. I'm not going to say flat-footed Mexican fighters because we got D-Style right in front of me.
Come on.
but it was a bunch of flat-footed fighters, though.
The thing with
Yori
Trinidad,
Boy Campus and people like that.
This is Carcino's boy right here, like Trinidad. So
you know it. Yeah, but the thing is Trinidad, he fights with a long stance. So he fight like a track star with his front foot, and he anchors down. So he's doing that, and it protects him from body shots. So he's going to use his length to keep you at bay. But if you use movement, he has to reset. So every time you have to stop, reset, and try to use a jab and then get back on his mark. But if he gets back on that mark, he's ready to fire. You move. And you'll control Trinidad that way. It's frustrating because that's what Oscar did that night. He just kept moving side by side and started using the jab. So early on, when Oscar was using his footwork and just was using boxing and staying at angles, Trinidad was trying to load up. You take it off of his power punches. He can't really sit down and throw anything because he doesn't get comfortable till he's in his zone. When he got his leg planted, his foot, and then he could really put his power together. Other than that, at 47, he fought guys they were right in front of him. They were tailor-made for him, basically. Trinidad was going to look good against them.
The only mover he fought was Hector Camacho, and that's pretty much about it. He fought Hector Camacho.
Yeah, but Camacho was even done at that point.
And he was done. Yeah.
But I'm trying to, like, Oscar De La Hoya was like that was it, and then he went to 54 after that. So after De La Hoya fight, that was done. That was his last fight at 47. He went to 54, fought David Reed, and then Vargas. So he was in the exciting fights. But the thing is, stylistically, he would have problems with Terrance Crawford. It was just like when he fought Winky Wright. Winky Wright put the blinders up. He couldn't find him. And Winky was coming right in front of him, but he didn't have anything to see to hit. So he would just be sitting there, and Winky could just come in, get close to him, and just start banging him, hit him with a jab.
I have to.
So that style confused him, and that wasn't really him using his size. It was just his style. And I'm
going to tell you guys right now, Crawford does not go through that fight without getting clipped and hurt. I don't see
Trinidad,
it. He's going to get hurt against Trinidad.
I mean, Trinidad jab. Trinidad had a strong jab when he threw it. It's just that it's gonna. If he got hurt, you're only gonna hit him once. It's just like Floyd Mayweather.
Because even Spence clipped him a couple times. Spence just couldn't hurt him, right? Trinidad's gonna hurt him. I think it's a tough fight for Crawford.
D-Style, the guys he beat at welterweight is guys like Pineda, Freddie Pendleton and guys like that. They're not on Troy Welters. Them guys are not on Crawford's level, man.
No.
They're just not on his level.
I would argue neither are Crawford's opponents on Trinidad's level.
Obakar might be another one of Yori Boy Campus. Now, I know you remember Yori Boy Campus.
Yori Boy was actually pretty good at that time. He was a pretty good fighter.
Yeah, he only lost like one fight or something, but yeah, he's a tough guy. But Trinidad, he comes straight down the line. So they finna bang it out. And I like Trinidad's odds and those. But if you're gonna stay in a straight line with Trinidad, yeah, that's in his element. But
gold medalist Reed, I know that was at 54, but I mean, messed up his eye.
Yeah, David
Vargas was a pretty decent boxer, beat him.
2 green fighters at 54. And I like David Reed. David Reed this is his first real fight as a pro. Okay. It was Trinidad. And then he dropped Trinidad.
Let's
he dropped Trinidad in that fight too. And
he did.
Yeah, yep. Trinidad got up.
We're gonna get a little interesting now because there's one more before Floyd. 2 more before Floyd, actually. 3. I'm sorry, 3. I lied. 3. Whitaker, the best version of Whitaker at 147, like not 135, not like at 147. The best version of Whitaker against Crawford right now. Who wins that fight and how? Like how do you see that fight playing out, Blood?
Whitaker. You know what? If they were at 135, I would pick Whitaker. I would pick Whitaker at 135, but not at 147. Because Whitaker was already past his prime, and Whitaker was not the gym rat that Crawford is. Now, let's look at some of the guys who Whitaker fought. He fought guys like Buddy McGirt, who was a little bit past it. Julio Cesar Vasquez. A lot of guys who just didn't bring much to the table as far as being really good boxers. He fought Oscar De La Hoya. He lost that fight. Julio Cesar Chavez was pretty much past it at the time. Whitaker fought him at welterweight. Yeah. The Whitaker at welterweight, to me, would give Terrance some problems, but he's not going to come prepared enough for Terrance Crawford. He's not going to be – when have you ever known Whitaker at 147 to be really in the gym, training really hard? He used to come to the fight a little bit out of shape. He had love handles. He was past his prime. You give it to him at 135, I'll give it to Whitaker, but not at 147.
He was winning off just talent.
He was winning basically off of talent. Yeah. And he has a lot of talent. I'm not going to lie, but the Whitaker at 147 was just not dedicated enough, man. Go back and look at the guys he fought. He has Julio Cesar Chavez is probably the biggest name, and both of those guys were past it at that time.
They were both on drugs.
They were both on drugs. They were on cocaine. He didn't live the lifestyle to beat Terrance Crawford at 147. He was always out of shape, and Whitaker was a smaller 147-pounder than Crawford. Crawford is naturally a little bit bigger than Pernell Whitaker. Well, Whitaker was shorter. He didn't have the reach, and those quick reflexes that got him through it at lightweight. He wasn't as quick and defined as a welterweight as he was at lightweight. He was never really much of a gym rat anyways, like Crawford was. It's just that when he was in his prime, he was just so gifted with his timing and his reflexes and his speed. I think he'll give Terrance Crawford some good veteran moments and pull a few tricks out the hat here and there and be able to survive. But I don't think he could beat Terrance Crawford. He's not dedicated enough at 147. Damn. He's too small. Also, he was a small 147-pounder.
Okay.
Right.
So Crawford, unanimous decision.
Unanimous decision. I see this fight going Bud Crawford way by unanimous decision as well. I think that it's going to be kind of an ugly fight, but I don't think that Pernell Whitaker will be able to, as the fight goes on, to keep Bud off of him. Bud will be able to get in on him because he's not going to use a jab. He's going to change angles. He's going to dip low to try to get away from him. And when he tries to engage, Bud is so athletic and gifted and sharp with his punches at angles. He's able to counter you while you even trying to hit him. He's already thinking about the counter shot, and it comes in so quick. he can gauge it. Once he got your timing, he can get shots home. And he know the best way to get Purnell is to throw straight shots. Straight shots down the pipe. Don't try to hook anything. Those straight lines. And you'll be able to connect on him and put a lot of pressure on him. You got to keep putting Purnell on his back foot, trapping him in corners. Let him use all his energy, ducking low, trying to slip shot. Just keep everything straight. If you keep everything straight, you're going to control Purnell. You might not knock him out. You might get a knockdown because he might be off balance, might get clipped or something, but he'll get up. They're going to go to the cards.
Okay.
But will win that by unanimous decision.
I think Butter wins too. Unanimous decision. I do think Whitaker probably claims he won the fight afterwards, and but you know what I mean, but I'm going to be very specific about Duran, right? Because Duran could also not be in his best shape, but I'm going to say Duran from the first. I'm going to be very specific. The Duran from the first Leonard fight, the one with the six-pack, the one that was motivated and was looking at Benitez in the crowd and going like this and you know what I mean, talking shit to Leonard's wife and all that, like that Duran, the venomous one, right? That Duran against Crawford right now, the Crawford that we just saw against Spence. Carcino, who wins that fight? How does that fight play out?
That's a rugged fight. That's going to be a nasty fight. But I'm saying that's going to be a tough fight even for Roberto Duran, because the thing is he's going to get caught in a lot of pull counters, something that Leonard used later on in that fight. See, Ray got rocked early by the power of Duran, and then he jumped into a firefight. But once he got into his fight, people forget, Ray came back and won some rounds late in that fight. Ray came back and settled in and got into the fight and was winning some rounds. He was just down by so much, and then Roberto Duran hurt him again late in the fight when he was rallying, but he started pull countering Duran. When Duran would just come in wild, he was timing it, and Ray would use his speed and then pop, 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 pop. And ever since that fight, Ray started putting on some pounds. He started really trying to fill out into the welterweight division. So by the time that rematch came, he was having a little bit more pop, a little more sting on it. But Ray started pull countering him, and that's what he gonna do. He gonna catch Duran. Duran gonna try to make it nasty early, and Duran he jumps in, he gets wild, and he'll push you back if you're not used to fighting going backwards. But Ray, just like in the rematch, he couldn't beat Ray. That was not gonna happen. If Ray sit in front of him, he'll tear Ray apart. Ray gonna fight at angles, Duran is done. And that's what Bud gonna do. Bud gonna change the angles. As soon as he get wild, he gonna change the angle and frustrate him. When he come in wild, he gonna loop the shots over his shots and step out. Loop him over. Wow, hit him and step around.
Look, before Blood,
to Duran all night. Pull counters, loop the shots right through Duran. When Duran punch, the shot coming in a loop. Wow, and he gonna step over to the side. Same way he did Sean Porter.
Look, that Duran, I'm gonna say it might be unpopular. I don't care. I think beats Terrance Crawford. That Duran's a fucking beast. and look, Crawford's not gonna hurt Duran. And I know it's a hell of a statement. Duran went the distance with Hagler, right? What Hearns did was crazy because nobody does that to Duran. He did it, right? But that's no offense to Crawford. He doesn't hit as hard as Hearns. He just doesn't, right? So I think he's going to be able to take the best shot for Crawford, but Duran will hurt Crawford. He will hurt him. If he have to respect Mean Machine's power, he's going to have to respect Duran's power. And I think Duran had respectable speed, very underrated boxing skills. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. And I think while, yes, Ray fought smarter in the rematch, that also had to do with the fact that they rushed that rematch and Duran wasn't in his best condition for that fight. He was in horrible shape for that fight, in my opinion. That Duran Crawford beats. There's no doubt. If I wasn't specific about this Duran, I'd say Crawford 9 out of 10 times. But that Duran specifically is probably the best Duran I ever seen. And I think that Duran wins a very competitive 12-round fight. I would favor Duran personally, but Blood, what say you?
Duran only fought 3 fights at welterweight, man. He only fought 3 times. And then, so there's not really enough there to really evaluate Duran as a welterweight, in my opinion. Duran, he came up from the lightweight division, and Sugar Ray Leonard wanted to prove a point by going toe-to-toe with him. We saw what happened in the rematch. A lot of people want to blame it on Duran's training and this and that, but when Sugar Ray Leonard started to move, he made Duran quit. Now, you have 3 fights, 2 or 3 fights with Duran at welterweight, and in one of these fights, he fucking quit, right? So this is around the time period where Duran he was mentally challenged. This guy was able to actually quit and say no mas. Well, he didn't say no mas, but that's what they called it, the no mas fight. Mm-hmm. I don't think that version could beat a Terrance Crawford. This is you're talking about. No, that's not Duran at his best, D-Style. Duran at his best is lightweight, 135 pounds.
Yes, right.
Not the 2 fights that he had.
That's his best win. Like
pounds, man.
Beating Ray Leonard was
better than that.
That's his biggest win. Yes, that's his biggest win was against Ray. But he won that by winning outside the ring, psychologically. And so
you don't think he's going to get to Crawford? This guy's going to talk shit about Crawford's wife. I know that's ugly, but he's going to do it. He's going to talk shit about his family.
Lundy when he talked about Crawford's wife?
No, Spence didn't talk about his wife.
No, he talked about Lundy.
What happened when Lundy talked?
I don't know. Lundy did that. Lundy did that.
Yeah, he did. He said
yeah, but Lundy ain't no Duran. I mean,
well, still, though,
you tell me, because how did Crawford fight against Lundy, Blood?
What's that?
How did Crawford fight? Did he fight defensive the whole fight?
He came in there and beat his ass, is what he did.
So guess what he's going to do if Duran starts talking venomous shit?
Well, you know what? Crawford could always change it up. I don't think he would try to stay there in front of him like Sugar Ray Leonard did. Sugar Ray Leonard made the mistake in that fight of going in there and trying to prove a point by going toe-to-toe with Roberto Duran. So he let Roberto Duran win the psychological and mental battle at that time.
I just feel that's what Crawford does, though. He tries to prove a point.
There's only 2 fights with Duran of significance at welterweight, and it's the 2 fights with Sugar Ray Leonard. And in one of those, he said no mas.
Do you remember when Crawford?
That's not the best version of Roberto Duran.
Do you remember when Crawford was talking to that member of Spence's team? You're like, oh, you sound like a female right now, running your mouth, blah blah blah. Like he sounded like he wanted to hurt that guy. Yeah. Crawford, like at the press conferences, Duran will be running his mouth, bro. Like Duran will be talking a lot of shit to Crawford, and Crawford will go in there and try to bully him and prove a point. And I think it would backfire.
Yeah, if he get clipped by Duran, he'll be like, okay, he'll get on his jail. See, the thing about Terrance Crawford is when you catch him with one, can you put together something to really to get him out of there? You catch him with one, he gonna make sure you don't catch him with that again for a while. If you do, he gonna take that away from you. You ain't gonna get him with that. It's just like with Floyd. You catch Floyd with a good shot, it's hard to put 2 or 3 shots together on him. Those are the good fighters. They know how to make the adjustment to say, okay, that's not working.
Okay,
I'm gonna have to go to another plan and see what's going on, see what's working and what's gonna work for me. Like when he fought Cotto, when Cotto started having success, and he was like, all right, I can't use that. I gotta see what's working on Cotto. And he found out the uppercut and the right hook over the top, left uppercut and the right hook over the top is what's working on Cotto. And he just used that and closed him out. Stayed on Cotto's left side and just start boom and looping that right hand over the top.
So let's talk about the guy that knocked out Duran, a weight class above, but still he knocked him out. Hearns, when Hearns was at 147, long, did use his height, great jab, a lot of power, right? Blood, who wins that fight? Crawford or Thomas Hearns?
Talking about Thomas Hearns?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. First of all, before I go there, though, the guy who said that Duran had 7 fights in the welterweight division before Sugar Ray Leonard, who did he fight? Who were the 7? Other than Palomino, who did he fight? No, Leonard was the 2 fights of significance, man, right? All those other guys, you don't know none of those guys. So be quiet with that, man. Right? He had 2 significant fights. If you want to consider Palomino, right? So I'm just let me just correct that real quick. Now let's go to Thomas Hearns, right?
Sure.
Pepino Cuevas. This is a very young version of Thomas Hearns. So now you're putting a 35-year-old Terrance Crawford against a 22-year-old Thomas Hearns. This is the first name that I heard that might be a problem right here. But I do believe...
What? No way. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do believe that Thomas Hearns, when he was 22 or 23, was still a little bit green and inexperienced.
Okay.
Thomas Hearns' best years was really at middleweight or maybe junior middleweight. He wasn't quite filled out yet. It's a really hard one to call, man. Thomas Hearns had a really good jab. He punched harder than Crawford. He was bigger than Crawford naturally.
Yep.
You know what, man? D-Style, you got me stuck here, man, right?
Flip a coin in your head, I guess.
Because of the age, right? Because of the age, 22, 23, Thomas Hearns.
Okay. Does he knock Crawford out?
Something that might work for him. Something that might work for Crawford is the inexperience factor on Thomas Hearns. And the thing that might work for Hearns is the fact that he was just so young and energetic at the time. And it took one hell of a Sugar Ray Leonard to beat Thomas Hearns. A Sugar Ray Leonard who ended up getting a detached retina. You know what? If I had to gamble, man, on it, man, I would go with Hearns, man. It's a really tough one to call.
It is a tough one, yeah.
It's a very tough fight to call, man. I can't see I don't know if a 35-year-old Crawford could deal with Thomas Hearns at 23, unless there's I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Let me hear what Carcino.
I think.
See if you guys can convince
really quick. Let me read this really quick.
I'm riding the line with this one.
So Duran has. Let me just read this really quick. DL87. Thank you for the support, brother. He says Duran has always had issue with becoming too squared and too much before the combos. Benitez capitalized on this a lot in their fight, countering him. Thanks for the support there, brother. Look, I think Thomas Hearns wins that fight. I just think the power will be too much for Crawford. And again, Crawford, even in the Spence fight, which he dominated, he got clipped. It's just Spence couldn't hurt him. Like Thomas Hearns going to put hands on him. Now, granted, you do have a point when you put it there. I wasn't even thinking about like the age factor at first. Like yeah, that would be a young Hearns and an older, like a veteran in Crawford, right? So
13-year age difference, probably.
So it could work both ways. Will youth overcome experience, pretty much, and
right.
I just think Hearns was just something else. It was just built different. Now, granted, if Crawford clips him with a nice clean shot right in the chin, he could turn the whole fight around. But I would favor Hearns in that fight, but maybe Carcino has a different perspective.
I'd like to hear it. I think I'm favoring Hearns too, but
Thomas Hearns, everybody know Thomas Hearns is like my favorite fight of all time. That's how I came in the box with Thomas Hearns. But Thomas Hearns he would get knocked out in probably 6 rounds, 6-7 rounds. He'd be knocked out.
What?
Yeah, Thomas is gonna get. He might rock Terrance Crawford, which I think he would, with a jab right hand. And Thomas always keeps his left too low. Because he keeps it like real low, like a hook, and he jab off of it. But Terrance is going to set a trap, and he's going to loop a right hand over and clip Thomas Hearns, and that's going to be it. Once he buzzes Thomas Hearns is going to get out of there.
Okay.
He's going to get Hearns out of there. And it's going to be a mistake by Thomas Hearns. Thomas Hearns is going to be winning the fight. He's going to be winning all the cards and then get knocked out in like round 6 or 7 because he made a mistake and got clipped. It's going to look just like my man that he always lose to and keep busting up. And I'm like, wow, my God. He was
Barkley, Iran
Barkley, yep. The Blade Barkley, man. He was blistering him. with everything in the book. I'm like, man, this fight finna be over quick. And sure
Boom.
enough, just a one shot. Poof.
That was a bad style matchup for Hearns for some reason. For some reason, that guy, he could beat everybody that Barkley couldn't beat, but he just couldn't beat Barkley.
Yeah,
like Duran.
he would be winning the fight easily. He just get caught.
Yeah. Really quick, High and Low Sportatorium, the channel where boxing is spoken with style. Appreciate it. Let's get to Sugar Ray Leonard. Man, I got to be honest with you guys. I think Leonard would just be too fast for Crawford. Highly skillful. I think Crawford will be shelling up a lot in that fight. He's going to have a hard time countering Leonard. He might give Leonard some issues because he can always go from southpaw to orthodox. Switch it up.
Once again, you got the 23-year-old Sugar Ray Leonard, because Sugar Ray Leonard at welterweight was really young. That's a really young fighter right there against a 35-year-old.
Just too fast, too much. I just think he would be too much for him. I just think Crawford would, like, his output would drop so much in that fight, in my opinion. I think Leonard would, and you got to keep in mind though, in those days, like Benitez was becoming world champion at 17. You know what I mean? These guys, like Salvador Sanchez, he passed away at 23, and he had a Hall of Fame resume. In those days, these guys were very active and had a great resume by the age of 23. You know what I mean? So it's not like a 23-year-old today. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a pretty seasoned guy, though, even at the young age. But I got Leonard. You guys maybe disagree?
No, I got Sugar Ray Leonard beating Terrance Crawford.
Yeah, me too.
Because he possesses the thing that's going to bother Terrance, is that he can match Terrance Crawford in every aspect that Terrance Crawford is good at. But his inside fighting and his underrated power. Sugar Ray Leonard had a lot of power. He was a full welterweight. Like, he was really 160 pounds. He started his career at welterweight. So this is where he didn't come from lightweights. He started off at 47 because he was a big welterweight. He had the speed for his size, and he would sit down and trade with you at welterweight, which something that was very unique from him, in that his speed, he could change angles and he could fight backing up. Terrance Crawford never fought a guy who knew how to fight backing up on the move and on the go. Ray could fight going backwards and set you up and catch you with a left hook, and his left hook was his strongest punch. It was very underrated until people felt it and said, whoa, this little guy got some pop. And you're going to have to respect it when you're in there with Ray, you know. Yeah. Hagler ate it, but he said he ain't felt it, but he sat down on a couple of shots on Hagler. He was like, hey, man, you ain't just finna walk in here. So he sat down on a couple of them. But, yeah, Ray Leonard at 47, I think he gets Terrance. I think he gets him, you know, because he's got the speed, the hand speed, and he can fight on the inside. He's comfortable in there. If you want to bang with him on the inside, he'll bang with you, but you ain't going to get him like you think you're going to get him, because he could catch. Back then, Ray used to catch it with his gloves out like this and would catch your shots coming in. Pop, pop, pop. It was real quick, and he'll fight backing up like that and moving his head. It'll be such a different look than Terrance has ever faced. He ain't gonna be ready for that right away. It's gonna be a chess match. He ain't gonna win.
Okay. Blood, how do you see it?
I can't see a 35-year-old welterweight beating 23, 24-year-old Sugar Ray Leonard. I don't care who he is. Not at the age of 35. Sugar Ray Leonard, as a welterweight, was beating up guys who were middleweights like Marco Serraldo, the Mexican champion, Tony Schiavone, Ayub Kaluli. He beat up middleweights and stuff like that in his spare time, you know, on these non-title fights. He'll beat these kind of guys up. And then he was able to beat big names such as Benitez. He was able to beat Thomas Hearns. He was able to beat Roberto Duran. There was a few guys that he didn't fight, that being Marlon Starlin and Donald Curry. But other than that, man, this guy was just unbelievable. He had the hand speed. He had the power. He could knock you out with one punch because he had some vicious one-punch knockouts. He could fight mid-range, long range. He could fight off his back foot. His head movement was unbelievable. He would just be way too much as a welterweight for a 35-year-old Terrance Crawford. He's not going to be right in front of Terrance Crawford like Earl Spence was. He's not going to be easy to hit with all them counter punches. Sugar Ray Leonard could do some everything. He could turn it up. He could slow it down. He could hit him with angles. The foot movement too. The footwork was unbelievable. You know, a showboating young Leonard. Terrance Crawford couldn't deal with him, man. Sugar Ray Leonard wins this fight pretty easy, in my opinion.
Yep.
He might be able to go to distance because there were guys out there who were able to go to distance with Sugar Ray Leonard, but it's an easy win for Sugar Ray Leonard, in my opinion. And the guys who did actually go to distance with him when he was a welterweight were guys like who were middleweights, like Marcos Geraldo and guys like that. So, I just don't really see it, man. I know Eklund went the distance with him one time, and some people would have said that Eklund might have floored Leonard or something like that. But it's an easy fight for Sugar Ray Leonard, man.
Damn. Okay. And there you go. Because earlier people were saying, they're going to pick Bud in all these fights. You never know, guys. Shit. So let's get to the one. Because it is the most recent welterweight, and it is the closest to Bud. They both fought around the same time. You know what I mean?
I already know what Carcino's picking.
I don't know. He might surprise us, right? Floyd Mayweather Jr. And let me just say this, because I posted on Twitter that I'm going to talk about this. And I don't know, like people just assume that it's going to be a hit piece on Floyd. And like, let me be very, very clear. I have a lot of respect for Floyd as a fighter. He was a tremendous fighter. Like, you could argue the best of his era. You know what I mean? Without a doubt. Great fighter. I always picked him to beat Manny Pacquiao. Hypothetically, that fight happened. It happened, and he beat him. I never picked against Floyd in any fight, ever. I always predicted him to win. So this is not an anti-Floyd channel. But with that said, everyone already knows my take on this. So I believe at 147, right? Any version of Floyd that fought at 147, from when he first moved up and fought Judah, or the one that fought Baltimore, the one that fought Haddon, the one that moved back down and that fought at a catchweight against, Marquez. I don't even think it was at a catchweight, but the guy that fought Pacquiao, the one that fought Maidana. I don't care which Floyd you give me. Terrance Crawford, as we know him today, I would pick him to beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. I wouldn't pick Crawford at 135. I would pick Floyd, right? But at 147, I think Crawford would beat Floyd Mayweather. That's my opinion. Carcino, let's start with you. Who wins that fight?
Well, I have to agree with that assessment that you just made, that, Floyd Mayweather at any level from when he first came up, probably not the one that fought at the end, but preferably the one that was when he came up to welterweight, the one that fought Shane Mosley or Canelo. Well, that was at 54 or 52, but that Canelo, the one that came into welterweight, that Floyd Mayweather, he would beat Terrance Crawford. And the reason why he would beat Terrance Crawford is because
I thought it was going the other way, wasn't he? All right, go ahead.
That's the misdirection.
He caught me with a Floyd counter. He caught me with a check hook right
version of Floyd at welterweight.
You just got me when he got Haddon. I just hit the turnbuckle. Go ahead.
Yeah. And here's the reason why he would win is because Floyd can do something that Terrance can do, but they do it differently. Floyd knows how to make you miss right in front of you. He's not somebody that has to be on the outside, and out of the range of your punches. He can make you miss standing right in front of you and still be a danger to strike you. So he could slip you standing right in front of you and counter you right in front of you and still step to you. He could be right there near you. You could slip all the punches. He could throw punches right when you finish your combinations. And right before you try to move out, he could step right to you and be right there. Now, the only problem that Floyd's going to have is the the height advantage and the length of Crawford, but Crawford would have to be busy with his jab, which he's not really. He's more of a counter. He kind of wants to bring you out of your shell so he can counter you. He's a counter puncher. So he's going to be waiting a lot because Floyd ain't going to make the mistakes like Errol was making. That's why I said that was tailor-made for him. Errol's going to come forward with pressure, be wide open. Floyd, he's going to have to search for, set traps to try to bait him out. And then he would use his flick jab to try to see if he can bring Floyd out. But now he's got to respect another master boxer. So it's going to be a chess match. But Floyd will best him because Terrance is a guy that takes risk. He's going to, as the fight feel like it's getting too boring, or Floyd, he'll snooze it out if he has to outpoint you. Bud is going to take more risk than Floyd would ever take. And you can hit Bud, when he start making those mistakes and you score your points here and there. But Floyd knows how to frustrate you and take away what you think you can have the advantage in. But that length, Floyd fighting somebody that moved around at 47, he never really had that except for Zab. And Zab never really used his footwork or, it at all. He mostly came in a straight line. Everybody came in a straight line at Floyd. So that's the one advantage Bud would have. But Bud would have to use his mobility to be in that fight. But I see Floyd winning probably a majority decision. It'll be a close decision, or it'll be something interesting like that where you could think either style go either way. But I give Floyd the advantage because he'll land the clean shots will be landed by him.
Before I ask Blood, if Crawford fights from the southpaw position, Floyd fought more aggressive against southpaws. Like he didn't really lay back and wait on southpaws. Like he pressured Zab. He would fight off the high guard.
Well, he did that. But he did that because Zab can't fight going backwards. He knows that. That's why he wanted to push Zab.
But he was getting, in other words, like he was getting outboxed by Zab in those first 4 rounds.
That was the strategy. No, he didn't fight in the shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't fight in the shoulder roll.
I'll let Blood go, but go ahead.
That was the strategy.
I'm gonna let Blood go. I just wanted to clarify this. That they know each other. They grew up Olympic team sparring and everything. They sparring session. So he knew Floyd was they practice against the shoulder roll, everything. So Floyd said, I'm not going to use the shoulder roll because they've been preparing for it all camp. Same thing with Terrance Crawford and Errol Spence. They was waiting for him to switch. When he switched, Terrance was like, I'm not going to switch. They training for me to switch. I'm going to fight southpaw the whole fight. So it's misdirection for him. So Floyd just brought the pressure to Zab because Zab can't fight backing up. And if you force him to do that and throw his big punches early, it's the same strategy used against Conor McGregor. Let Zab burn himself out. If that 3-4 rounds, he's a front runner, he gonna be done. He can't fight going backwards. And then that's it. Floyd could just start taking over the fight. He just walked him down the whole fight. Okay, you can go ahead, Blood.
Okay, well, the people who did the best against Floyd Mayweather as a welterweight, because the Oscar De La Hoya fight, that was at 154, but Floyd was still an active welterweight during that time period. But I would have to say Zab Judah did pretty decent against Floyd Mayweather, and so did Marcos Maidana. Zab Judah is one of the only fighters that Floyd fought who could even match him with speed. Mm-hmm. Zab Judah did win the first 4 or 5 rounds against Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, especially the first 4. You maybe could argue the 5th round. It's been a while since I've watched that fight. But if Zab Judah could do well against him for 4 rounds, I believe that Crawford could do well even better against Floyd Mayweather. See, the thing about Floyd Mayweather, the guys that Floyd Mayweather fought, Marquez, Ricky Hatton, Baldomir, Victor Ortiz, Marcos Maidana, Andre Berto was a little bit past it. Manny Pacquiao was past it.
Robert Guerrero.
He fought Robert Guerrero. A lot of these guys were very slow fighters. They didn't have the speed and the timing of a Terrance Crawford. The only one who even had close to the speed and timing of a Terrance Crawford is Zab Judah, and Zab Judah gave him problems. Crawford is a much better fighter than Zab Judah. Zab Judah, Zab Judah, wasn't he a southpaw?
Yep.
And he was a southpaw which Terrance Crawford could go to southpaw if he wanted to against Floyd Mayweather. I think that Terrance Crawford, with the speed and the timing that Mayweather has never seen, because he's actually even a little better than Zab Judah at that, and the ability to also confuse Mayweather by going from southpaw to orthodox, I believe at welterweight, Terrance Crawford beats Floyd Mayweather, unanimous decision. Now, if we're talking lightweight, that's something different. If we were talking lightweight, I would definitely go with Floyd Mayweather. I thought he had a more impressive lightweight presence. I think he was at his best. I think the speed and timing was even better for Floyd at lightweight.
Power.
What's that?
His power, too.
His power was there when he was at lightweight. So if we're talking lightweight, I'm going with Floyd Mayweather all day. But when it comes to welterweight, because of his resume and the guys that he has on his resume, such as Carlos Baldomir, Ricky Hatton, Marquez, Robert Guerrero, Victor Ortiz, Marcos Maidana, who gave him some problems, placing a lot of pressure on him, which that's something Terrance Crawford could do too, is he could go and he could put pressure on Floyd Mayweather, because at welterweight, he does have the power advantage. He stopped 10 straight welterweights, where Floyd Mayweather couldn't stop a welterweight for almost a whole decade. I mean, he did stop Victor Ortiz when he stole him. He was looking somewhere else and he punched him, right? I would go with Terrance Crawford to win unanimous decision against Floyd Mayweather as a welterweight, not as a lightweight, though. As a lightweight, I got Floyd Mayweather all day.
The other thing, Garcino, like I just think, especially like after the Gotti fight, I just noticed he was wearing orthopedic gloves. He was pot shotting his way to victories. And look, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't count out Floyd. Floyd's a great fighter. So,
me either.
You know what I mean? So he could win that fight. I mean, he's like a magician in the ring. But I'm just favoring Crawford. But I just think his hands are too brittle. I just think, like, you know what I mean? The pot shotting one punch at a time was not going to do it against Crawford.
He's not going to take out Floyd Mayweather. I can tell you that. He won't take him out. It'd be a really good chess match. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if Floyd won it. To be real, I mean, I gotta, I can see where Garcino is coming from.
Yeah. I know what Floyd's going to do to win that fight. So he would frustrate Crawford and force Crawford to have to be the aggressor in the fight. And once he do that, that's when he's going to start.
I don't think he can do that if Crawford's fighting from southpaw, though.
Oh, that don't matter with Floyd. Floyd don't have no problem.
He ain't going to use a shoulder roll. You know that.
But he forced Zab Judah to be the aggressor in those first 4 rounds, and Zab Judah just happened to have the speed and the timing to be able to lead. He was leading off and winning some of those rounds.
Yes, he gave Zab Judah those rounds. He wanted to keep Zab moving backwards.
Like what he did against,
and once that happened, and you saw what happened in the 4th round, he hit Zab with a body shot, and the whole fight was over.
Like I think the Judah fight was more complicated than the McGregor fight. Like the McGregor fight was very like elementary. What he did, he just went like this. He just walked him down and waited for him to get tired. But like it was more complicated in the Zab Judah fight.
After 4 rounds, the fight was over.
That was done. What I'm trying to say is he's not going to just like if Crawford goes southpaw, like he's not just going to like beat Crawford that way. Like you know what I mean?
It's going to be a chess match. Crawford's going to be winning some rounds and looking. You know, they're going to be boxing, and it's going to be a boring like night for some people that's going to be like, oh man, it's not a lot of action. It's tying up. And
also, Floyd is really good at tying up, right? He would tie guys up. Usually, like Crawford is a really strong dude. He's strong. With a wrestling background. Like Floyd didn't even want to grapple with McGregor. Remember when he gave his back to McGregor and just like went like this and let the ref break it up? Like that's not going to work against Bud.
I'm gonna tell you, Garcino, he can't beat Pretty Boy though. He can't beat Pretty Boy. I'll give you that, Garcino.
At 35, he wouldn't have beat Floyd at 35. No way. But
he can't beat Pretty Boy. He can't beat Pretty Boy.
Because Floyd had
at 35
had power at 135. He could turn a fight around. You know what I mean?
But at 47, you know, it's like the wise owl. You know, he knows what he's gonna do. To just that Terrance Crawford, he's active he gets active when he needs to. He feel like I got to get active. He get at it, and he willing to take a punch to go and get active, and that's going to cost him against.
So I think Floyd's going to have a high guard and be on his back foot waiting for Crawford. If Crawford's fighting southpaw,
sometimes he gonna give him different looks. He'll give him a different look every time. He ain't just gonna be in the shoulder roll, but he gonna be close to Crawford. He ain't gonna stay on the outside.
What I would do to get that damn fight, I swear to God. But it's never gonna happen. But.
I mean, no, not now. Now I wouldn't put Floyd in there now. Now
no.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't even want to see it.
He's been out of the ring for too long, man.
Yeah. Floyd's time is coming on. Right. Yeah. It's too much then settled in. He couldn't go through those hard training camps no more like that. Like what we used to go through. That's just grueling.
Look, I want to thank the both of you, but before I let you guys go and before I end the broadcast, if there's any welterweight you want to mention that you feel would have been a good fight with Crawford that we didn't mention
from any era,
anything, yeah.
There's quite a few that I would have. I think Marlon Starlin would have given him a good match. You're talking about a guy who's never been knocked out. I know he got hit late one time, and that was no contest.
Yeah, broke his leg.
Yeah, with the pressure that Marlon Starlin could apply, I think that he might have been a little bit of a problem. I think that Jose Napoles would be a little bit of a problem if we take it back to I think the Cuban Hawk would have been a problem for him, and Sugar Ray Robinson would have been a problem too.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Those are the fighters that I would mention as welterweights. Because if we go any further back than that, now we're talking about 4-round gloves and all kinds of stuff. I don't want to take it back to Barbados, Wildcott, and people like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to leave those guys out of it. But I mean, Sugar Ray Robinson, the Cuban Hawk is pushing it. Jose Napoles. I'll say Jose Napoles and up. I'd say Jose Napoles. I'd say Marlon Starlin because of how tough he was. I think that Crawford would beat Donald Curry, and I think he'll beat Simon Brown too.
Somebody mentioned Emil Griffith. I think that would be a great fight.
Emil Griffith, that's another one. You named one right there.
I forgot about Emil Griffith.
Me too. That's a really good name, D-Style.
Yeah.
And there might be a couple more that I'm forgetting.
Somebody in the chat said it, but Carcino, anything before we roll out, brother?
Man, he pretty much said all the names that I stole them all. Yeah, and Emil Griffith, man, that'd have been a good fight. I'm trying to think of welterweight. What would have been a great fight for him?
We didn't mention Benitez, but that would have been a good fight.
Yeah, but see, the thing
Crawford wins, but
he didn't. Yeah, Crawford, I think, had more power. Wilfredo Benitez was slick. He was hard to really hit with a combination. But you could if you landed on his chin, he was going down. So I think Crawford would have got it.
Yeah.
Gosh, man,
you have to take a real far back. That's how good of a fighter he is, man.
Yeah, I mean, what you gonna go with? What, Henry Armstrong?
Yeah, you have to go back to guys like Henry Armstrong and Sugar Ray Robinson.
You know, I think the ultimate respect was I saw an interview. It's out there with Thomas Hearns that somebody asked him could Crawford fight in your era, and he said, yeah, he could. He would hold his own. Then he said, I don't know about Spence, but Crawford, yeah. You know, it is what it is.
I would leave Sugar Ray Robinson, Kid Gavilan, and Henry Armstrong, Barbados, Joe Walcott. I'd leave those guys out of it because the era was just too different, man. Kid Gavilan, I know he was 1950s, 40s to 50s, but it was still a lot different back then, man. That's just a different era. I don't want to really mix those guys in. The guy who's probably the biggest threat for Crawford, we named him. It's Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Thomas Hearns, probably. The
current eras for sure. Hey, guy, I appreciate you guys coming, man. This has been great. It just felt like, especially when we brought up the Margarito topic, but I don't want to. We would have still been talking about it right now. So I'm just like, you know what? Let me just lay off of that for now. Maybe another day, but it was great. A nice throwback Tuesday, and a shout out to Blood and to Carcino. And everybody have a good one, man.
It's good, man. It's good to talk to you, man.
Oh, it's great, man. I'm like, man, now I'm sitting here thinking about how would he fare up against Lloyd Hunnigan. I'm sitting
no. He'll kill Hunnigan, man. They killed the Ragamuffin Man.
Yeah, him
The Ragamuffin Man would get beat up, man.
Maurice Blocker.
I think Donald Curry might be better for that fight than the Ragamuffin Man.
Oh man,
Lloyd Huntington, man. I'm like, man, Lloyd Huntington.
No, man, he don't want.
how would Rolly Romero do against Crawford? I'm just playing. All right, hey, I was just joking, Rolly Romero, but that guy will get fucked up. But with that said, guys, I got to roll out. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. Everybody have a good one.
All right, thank y'all for having me on. Appreciate it, D-Style. All right, blood.
Peace.